Hello and good day, everyone. This is Paul Rocchio at the International Franchise Association. I want to thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Today's presentation is part of IFA's 2021 Economic Outlook webinar series. It's based around the newly released 2021 Economic Outlook on Franchising report, and we'll focus today on the personal services sector and particularly family and entertainment brands. Two quick notes before we get started. We are recording today's webinar, and it will be made available later this evening to all IFA members on our microsite, community.franchise.org. And if you have any questions during today's session, please use the question box to post your question, and the panelists will address questions towards the end of the webinar today. So today's purpose is to give you an overview of the report findings specifically for the personal services sector as it pertains to family and entertainment. And of course, if anyone wants to view, the high-level overview of the full report, please go back to the May 18th webinar, and you could review all the key points and findings from FranData's report. And specifically, FranData predicts that by year end, franchising will have recovered to nearly 2019 levels in most metrics: business growth, employment, economic output, contribution to GDP. So that's pretty huge. And then this is another great point. Franchising is expected to experience the highest upswing of franchise sales since the last recession this year. And then specifically for the personal services sector, and again specifically for family and entertainment, while still below the pre-pandemic levels, franchise establishments in this specific sector are expected to grow by 3.5% in 2021 to almost 114,000 establishments. And franchise employment in this sector is also projected to increase, adding more than over 100,000 jobs, a growth rate of almost 10%. And finally, this sector is expected to increase their economic output by almost 40%, 37.7% over 2020 numbers, to a total of $35.8 billion. So these are great predictions for the sector and a lot to look forward to. So on that note, I'd like to introduce this awesome panel we have today. My good friend Nancy Bigley, COO of Painting with a Twist, good friend Carolyn Thurston, founder and CEO of Wisdom Senior Care, and Ann Huntington Sharma, the president of Huntington Learning Centers, and she's also going to moderate today. And then last but not least, my good friend Andrew McGiston, president of Goldfish Swimming Schools, and awesome panel today. So really looking forward to hearing what you all have to say. And on that note, Ann, let me turn things over to you. So please take it away.
Well, thank you, Paul, and thank you to the IFA for giving us this opportunity to discuss the personal service, family, and entertainment sector. So yes, I am your host for the next hour, the moderator and panelist. So what we're going to do is we're going to do intros. And so the question is, introduce yourself and your company, and how do you personally view the economic outlook for the personal service sector? So what we'll do is we'll start with you, Carolyn.
Hi, well, I'm excited to be with everyone today. I am Carolyn Thurston, President and CEO of Wisdom Senior Care, keeping wisdom at home. We are headquartered in North Carolina, but we currently have franchises in North Carolina, Georgia, and we're now moving to Florida. So we're really excited. We're considered an emerging franchisor right now at this time, and we're just excited about the outlook. We are looking, I think and as we talk about it today, mindset has everything to do with what you do or you don't do. And so our mindset is truly clear. We have a set targeted goal, and we're moving forward with that.
Wonderful, thank you. Next up, Nancy.
Thanks, Ann. Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Bigley. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Twist Brands. And we own two franchise concepts, Painting with a Twist, which is a paint and sip concept where you paint on canvas primarily or another surface and you drink wine. So it's a lot of fun, and we love it. We have 265 locations across the country. And then in November, we purchased Color Me Mine. So this past November, right in the middle of a pandemic, we just went all crazy and bought another company. And so Color Me Mine is a paint your own pottery concept, been around for over 25 years, so really well-established brand in their space. And we have 140 locations across the country. So with both of our brands, obviously, we were all about gathering and hugging and having great times together. And so obviously the pandemic had as you can imagine, a very significant impact on both of our businesses. But despite that, we are extremely hopeful with the outlook, and primarily, for a couple of different reasons. One, Painting with a Twist was actually established in a crisis. So it was formed by our two founders during Hurricane or after Hurricane Katrina. It was really created to create a safe space for people to gather and get together, to get their heads away from the crisis and to heal and just sort of get reconnected and come out of it. And so, our core of our culture and our company is around that, which I think was extremely helpful, at least at Painting with a Twist. But what we're really finding, and I'm sure you guys have all noticed it too, is people want to get together again. People are dying to get together again and to hug each other and to be around each other and to see each other. And our business is all about creating a carefree escape with friends and family, and a place, for people to get away from what's happening in their life and to rejuvenate and create memories together. And so that's why we're extremely hopeful about the future. And we know that once, capacity limits start changing, that we're already seeing guests coming back in droves. We're having to sort of keep them back, saying, look, we're not at full capacity yet. And so, it's just encouraging for us to see this happening. It's encouraging for us to know, which I'll talk about a little bit later, we've added a couple of additional revenue streams. So we're excited about the fact that coming back from the pandemic, we have more that we can push against in the way of revenue pillars that, will have a significant impact on our growth for the end of this year.
Thank you, Nancy. You are going to question number 2 already. Andrew, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks for moderating today. Thanks, Paul, and the IFA for hosting this session with us today. We're really thankful to be here. And I think, as the president of Goldfish Swim School Franchising, we've been in business since 2006. I feel very blessed to be part of this personal services, family, and entertainment sector, because I think we're all, insulated in the fact that there is entertainment to be had and people want to get back out there and do things, kind of pursuant to what Nancy just mentioned, and we're seeing the same thing. So we have about 115 locations, and we're in 30 states around the country, and we work off the EOS process run by Gina Wickman, and we feel thrilled to announce that in the beginning of 2021 here, we anticipated that we'd be at a certain place. Literally tomorrow is our next quarterly meeting, and we're at 125% of our goal. So we have just seen families and kids getting back in the pool at a rate which, we frankly can't even keep up with from the employment side of things, which we'll probably talk about some of those challenges that we're all facing. But from the fact of moms and dads and kids wanting to get back into, this entertainment world because they've been, kind of held back for such a long time, we're very, very excited to be where we're at, and excited to talk about, the direction of Goldfish and where the economy is going.
Excellent, thank you. And I'm Ann Huntington Sharma. I'm the president and board member of Huntington Learning Center. We have been in business for 44 years, franchising for 37. And I had to have a meta moment. That's actually me from the 90s. So I've been franchising for a very long time. And it's wonderful to be here as a panelist and moderator. And the economic outlook, as I agree with fellow panelists, it's very, very bright. There's a lot of excitement, a lot of hope, and a lot of numbers that are coming in. So it's excellent. So with that, we want to focus on the future. That said, we also want to hear, were there any major system or operational changes that you had to make in 2020? And do you foresee continuing them in the future? And any changes that you implemented that you may need to stop or remove when we go back to the so-called normal. So we'll do the same merry-go-round. So Carolyn, you begin.
Thank you. Yeah, I think with us being in the health sector, keeping our seniors in their home, prior to COVID, we understood that that's the primary place where people wanted to be. With COVID coming in and looking at changing any processes, we had to implement some new processes that will continue, because really no one quite knows yet, like when we'll be able to stop like wearing masks, right? Or some of the simple things that we're all, is becoming a natural part of our everyday process. So I believe that when we look at this with COVID itself, we're running into a new situation where now there's COVID vaccines, and our clients are wanting to assure that anyone who comes into their home has not gotten tested, but that they have been vaccinated. So that's a new process now as far as tracking, right? We have to track now the clients that we bring on board who absolutely say, we will not let anybody in our home who you cannot show proof they have been vaccinated, versus our caregivers who have just opted, there's more education we're having to do around that. So I believe that's going to be a continual process that we'll continue to navigate. The other areas is in how we're hiring. Prior to COVID, there was always a demand in the personal and home care space. There's always been a demand for caregivers, but with Wisdom, we look for specific type caregivers. So what do you do when you get hospitals and places that are paying them maybe double, sometimes triple what they could make for with us, right? So therefore, it has caused us to now look at a new way of how do we attract the same caregivers, type of caregivers with core values that line up with Wisdom. So we're changing, we're looking at new hiring techniques. We're looking at not only when they come on, we have noted education has always been a big part of what we provide for our caregivers, but we're seeing now that the type of education will be, we're finding people coming into this industry that are brand new. They have not had any professional experience doing this, but you know what? Maybe they got outsourced. And now they're saying, this is the time I always wanted to do. I took care of my mother, they just don't know if they were doing it the correct way. So now we're able to utilize a lot of our training skills to help them earlier in the process. So our hiring, how we train and educate, how we track our caregivers who where they're going, to what homes they're going to. Those are some of the operational things that have come out of COVID that I still see us utilizing as we continue to move forward in where we are at this point.
Excellent. I'm sure that if they're not already, they will be in the brand standards manuals. Nancy, how is it looking for you? Any system operational changes, and do you foresee you either removing them, continuing them as we move into this new normal?
Yeah, I think several on, mainly on keeping. I think that, we certainly, for everybody that I've talked to, we've certainly gotten more efficient. We've certainly found new ways of working that, are working, and there's no reason why we can't continue that moving forward. For us, we did implement, as I mentioned earlier, 2 new revenue streams into our business. So because we were pretty much 100% shut down, we quickly, within a couple of weeks of COVID, made and to-go kits. And so art kits to go home, we call them twisted home kits, and then to-go kits for Color Me Mine. And so we had to really, obviously put that new product together, and then all of the technology, all of the operational processes, supply chain, all of those things around it. And that allowed us to keep going. And then after that, we launched virtual events. And so those were the 2 pillars that really kept us going, honestly, until we could start getting back into studio. And so while we will definitely see those new revenue streams drop, because again, people want to get back in studio, they want to be together in person, but we have really seen opportunities where we can really readjust those pillars as we get back into studio. So, you know, having pre-made kits in studio is an example that people can then take with them when they leave for gifts. People still want to do stuff at home. They still now have, I think, really realized that, wow, I can do events with my sister who lives across the country, or my parents that live in another state, and the whole family can still get together virtually now. Which, you know, that's never really been able to happen before. And so corporate team building too, a lot of corporations, as we know, have, you know, gotten rid of their office space, and now they have people all across the country. And so this is they're going to need to have team building opportunities that they can do. So we're going to keep those new revenue streams, and we're just going to have to do some adjustments there, but that's going to be huge. We're also we implemented and really pushed hard on technology because we had to, because our customers buy from us online primarily, and we needed to get to them virtually as well. And so we did a lot of heavy technology upgrading of our customized systems so our franchisees could better execute, and then our guests could buy from us faster and easier, and sort of automatically. And so that is, you know, that high level of focus on technology is something that we knew, and we had it as a main initiative, but it just, you know, COVID really highlighted for us like how critical technology was for our company, and how much we could get done and get executed at the franchisee level with, you know, more focus in that area. So we really are putting a high emphasis on technology moving forward. And then finally, you know, training, which Carolyn mentioned as well. You know, we, of course, as many of us, we had to switch our whole program to virtual. And what that opened up for us is the ability to, you know, train our artists and our managers along with our franchisees. So our new franchisees, we actually did a lot of transfers in 2020. We had over 31 transfers of existing studios. So that's where we shifted our focus, and we have a whole new program that we put in place now where we're driving the process. So we had such great wins, so we'll carry that forward now into 2021. But what we found with the training is we just were able to get out there to more of our brand, and to more people within our brand. And so while we don't want to permanently change our you know, franchisee training program to 100% virtual moving forward, because there is something to, you know, getting people into the office, really digging into the core and culture of a company. But from an operations perspective, like, we want them in studio, we want them hands-on on operations and really learning those pieces, especially Color Me Mine. It's, you got to get in with that kiln, you got to learn how to fire ceramics, like, that's really difficult to do virtually, but we're going to do a blend. So we're going to do a blend so that we can, you know, keep those pieces that really worked and allowed us to get, you know, touch more of our franchisees. We're getting a high level of existing franchisees who have come back through training in this last year because they can. It's easier for them to do that, and we love that learning that we got. So we'll keep moving that forward as well. And I think what we're really just going to, you know, try to not do in moving forward is, you know, pile on. So as all of us, we all just had to do things like whatever, there was just so much new stuff. It was like, I'll take that. Well, I'll take that, whether it was in our area of discipline or not. And so, you know, our team has taken on so much workload. And as people left, we weren't rehiring because, you know, we couldn't. And so, you know, I think we have to be very careful about that now, and really, you know, obviously we're still clawing our way back and we're getting close, but we need to take a step back and look at rehiring again, look at really re-identifying roles and making sure that we're not, you know, continuing to pile on to our teams. We're not continuing to just operate at the speed that we were. While I like the speed that we did, we can't keep that up forever. And so I think we have to, you know, really be a little bit careful about that. And then again, just really making sure that we've got the right balance of, you know, our staff working from home and being in the office. I think, again, it's a great benefit, but, you know, you can get into trouble I think personally, if you go too far to the extreme. And so I like the blend. I just, you know, I think we want to make sure that we're making the right decisions there for long term rather than just, you know, in this next year.
Excellent, thank you. That's beautifully said. Andrew, how about you? What's going on in swimming land?
Yeah, thanks. I don't know how to follow that, Nancy. That was really good. I think one of the things that we always touted as a brand that we love about Goldfish is that prior to the pandemic, we were recession-proof, we're Amazon-proof, we're proof of a lot of different things. Well, one thing we found out pretty quickly is that we are not COVID-19 proof. So all of our locations shut down for 3 to 4 months during the onset of COVID, and it was really challenging for us. I think, like everybody on the call and a lot of people listening, it brought us way closer to our franchise owners. We started having calls that everybody else did with just kind of collecting our minds and seeing how we get out of it. One of the things I think that we figured out as quickly as we came out of the pandemic was working smarter, not harder. When we started the business, we were open 7 days a week, every single hour, trying to give every opportunity to any member or family out there to be a part of Goldfish. And although that was great as entrepreneurs and starting the business, the challenge that we found is that we figured out with the help of our franchisees that there were certain thresholds that we needed to meet to actually make money on certain shifts. And prior to the pandemic, we just kind of took for granted the success of Goldfish, the strength in the brand, the power in the economy. And so we really learned that now, instead of being open as much as we can, we're very selective, and some locations are closed down, maybe 2 full days or 3 full days per week. And we actually are able to, move members to certain times because we can't sell anything online. When we were closed, we were closed. We offered virtual, training to the extent that we could, and toolkits, things like that, but we didn't sell them. There was no additional revenue stream for us outside of physically being at our school. So that was a really tough one for us. But obviously, as everyone else, the PPP and things like that really helped. So the thing that we've really focused on now is managing the schedule, because our franchisees, frankly, are not earning as much on the top line, but they're earning more on the bottom line because of the way that we manage our costs and our expenses, which has been really something that we've come out of, and it will be something that sticks with us. So we won't open days unless we absolutely have to, because we still are getting numbers that we are happy about at the school level. And so what it's also transitioned to us is, because of the strength in the brand, we have also, some weaknesses and some things like that surface, right? So sales for us, the phone would ring and we'd get them booked in, and word of mouth is our biggest seller. And now we know that sales is such a huge thing for us in terms of how do we communicate with members, how do we get them engaged in Goldfish. There is competition out there and people have decisions and choices to make. So we've really amped up our sales. We're putting out a new sales training program out there. And we're working on retention, the quality of our swim lessons. So the longer that we can keep people, engaged with successful lessons and quality, training, quality programs, just add to that bottom line that we're already kind of improving upon.
Excellent. And I think that those who are listening, we really are the personal service and family entertainment sector, and we have to just continue to provide that personal service. From our end, we've been tutoring and test prep for 44 years. Never in our 44-year history, of course, there was a gas crisis, there were the Great Recession, never a global pandemic. So never did we think that we would have to close our brick and mortar doors. And I'm so grateful and thankful to the entire team, because in a matter of days, we completely evolved our 44-year-old company, and now we have online tutoring. So that was a huge, major system change, which of course, the Huntington way, their system and processes, that's the franchising way, of course. So we had to retrain all of our team across the country. We have about 300 locations. And then we also really understood, what does the customer want? What does the customer need? So we also thought, okay, now there's so much homeschooling. How can we help that family? We have these accredited locations across the country. So we rolled out new revenue lines similar to what Nancy was saying, one called Huntington Study Hall, one called Huntington Performance Coach, Huntington Online Prep, and lots of others. So we're just going to keep on going. I call ourselves a 40-plus-year-old startup. I do agree, though, with Nancy that, we do have to push pause a little bit and be mindful of the workload. That said, we're continuing to fulfill that mission that Dr. Ray and Eileen started in 1977, which is to give every student the best education possible. In terms of stopping anything, we really pride ourselves on all the different councils and boards we have at Huntington. So as we're looking at the future of online and our whole our whole ethos is to give every student the best education possible. We need to make sure that that methodology, the Huntington methodology, stays true. So we have an e-tutoring strategic council with members of our franchisees, and we're speaking with members of the community to make sure that should we stop anything or should we press go on something new, that we're collaborating and communicating with the entire system. So we're being very thoughtful. A lot of really good has come out of the pandemic in terms of systems, processes, and new revenue lines that are helping our franchisees across the country, and most importantly, helping students get the skills, confidence, and motivation in a very, very disruptive climate. So all very good, and we completely transformed this brick and mortar. Andrew, I don't know how you do swimming online, but we were able to tackle tutoring online. So that was a good thing. I think all of us are saying very similar things, that we're focusing on the technology, the long-term growth of each of our systems. The next question, and Nancy, you will begin this. How are your franchisees responding coming out of the pandemic? What are you doing to keep them engaged and moving forward with opportunities? So we'll do Nancy, Andrew, and then Carolyn.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, this one, you know, is I think my biggest opportunity right now. You know, as with everyone, you know, our franchisees stepped up in a big way, obviously, and you know, the teamwork that we had across the brand. We already had a pretty high level of communication, but we really cranked it up significantly. And we had really, really high level of engagement, peer group sharing. We launched quite a few of those new things, and so, you know, what I'm finding now is the fatigue is starting to set in. And so, you know, as entrepreneurs, it's what we do best. It's we dig in, we suck it up, we pull from within, and we figure it out, right? Like, and so that's what we've all been doing, whether it's the headquarters level, whether it's the franchisee level, and we've figured it out in a big way, and it's been amazing to watch. But now, you know, now that we're seeing the light kind of at the end of the tunnel, and we know that, you know, we've got now this next big sort of surge of recovery, I'm seeing them slow down a little bit. I'm seeing them fatigue because, you know, we launched a lot of stuff, as all of you did. And so, you know, we launched, we say, about 2 years worth of innovation in, you know, about a 3-month period. And so that's a lot for franchisees to absorb in just normal times, much less the pandemic. And so we're trying to kind of catch up with that and backtrack a little bit. And so, you know, we're really working hard right now with our FAC and our task forces. We have multiple task forces that we already had in place, and we sort of added more bodies there because we just really wanted the pulse as quickly as we could get it. And they're all loving everything that we're doing. They're loving, you know, home office and everything that we've done, but they're like, we're just so tired. Our brains are overloaded. And so we're actually, and we'll see how this works next week, we're actually doing a virtual half-day conference. And so, well, it's not a conference, it's a retreat. So we were planning a 2-day conference, and we were looking at it, and I was getting overwhelmed just looking at it, going, how is my team, how are we going to get this done? Like, we are exhausted and we are overloaded, and is this really that much different than what we do with them every single week? And so I just sort of took a step back, and our FAC sort of did too, and we're like, let's just make it a 1 day and let's keep it simple. And so we decided to sort of throw out what we thought we should do, and we're doing a half a day, we are calling it a virtual retreat on resilience. And so we have a speaker coming in because we want them to sort of celebrate and look back a little bit at what got them through the last year. What things did they do that really, that they're proud of, that they executed, that got success for them, that you know, pushed them sort of outside their comfort zones, that we want to remember and hold on to. But, you know, resilience has to happen all the time, and we have to have core skills in place. And we didn't have those skills in place when COVID hit. We just figured it out. But we really need to build on those skills and really understand what we need to make sure that whatever is coming in the future, because the reality is, look, owning a business means that there's always something around the corner that we have to deal with, but we want to make sure that we really can reset the foundation the right way, make sure that our franchisees have those skills that they can pull back on, that our team can do the same thing, because we know that our recovery is going to be amazing, but we're worried that they haven't taken the proper time to recharge and refresh. And so we're really hoping that our retreat next week is going to give them, again, some new tools in the toolbox to do that. So that's sort of what we're going through right now. And again, I think the great win is that, the engagement is still there, the positivity is still there, the hope, all those things that you want your franchisees to have, the teamwork, the new, I think, found respect for each other is there. And I think that will continue, but we just need to give them some more soft skills, I think, because we've been so focused on tactical hard skills. I think the soft skills need to come into play so that we have a stronger foundation. So that's what we're working on right now.
Excellent. You need both of those. Andrew, what are you seeing in terms of franchisees responding, and how are you keeping them engaged and moving forward?
Yeah, thank you. So in terms of franchisees and how they're responding to, what's happening and where we're going, is we're seeing franchisees really double down in terms of, wanting to buy more units, or wanting to move into new markets, or wanting to collaborate with other franchisees. So we signed a 7-school development agreement for Manhattan in the middle of the pandemic. So for us, it just shared with us the belief that our franchisees, our current franchisees, have in the system. And we just most recently, within the last 30 days, signed a 19-unit development deal for several states in the United States as well. So that was a group that had been watching us throughout the pandemic and assessing how Goldfish was doing and what the economy is doing. And so those are things that are really just promising for us, that current and new franchisees believe in what we're doing and where we're going. So we're seeing that across the board. I think the challenge at the school level for us is that the employee side of things is really straining on everybody. Employee relations and employee matters are the #1 issue that all of our schools deal with across the board. People are hard, and it's increasingly more challenging for them. So that's one thing that they're struggling with, I'd say. As far as what do we do to keep the franchisees involved and engaged as we go forward, one of the things that, I've got 2 kids, I have a 7 and a 4-year-old, and so it's activities in the summertime. So this past 90 days for us has really been our ramp up. We always experience a lot of growth from January through May. And what we're seeing now is, as I look forward to the summer, there's no camps and programs that are completely sold out. So one of the things that's already in our toolbox is we do what we call Jumpstart Clinics. So we have these 5-day-in-a-row camps that we run for kids. And so we see a huge opportunity for an existing tool that we already use to really be, several times larger than whatever has been in the past. And so it's just priming the pump for the franchisees and going before them and thinking about these things that, can have a big impact. So it's those things that we're working with them on. We work with one of our franchisees is come up with this allowable hours Excel document, and essentially they key in how many hours that their staff work based on how many students are enrolled, based on how many lessons that we're performing as well. So we have all these tools, and that's what the benefit, obviously, of the franchise system is taking all these great things and sharing them. And with all of our owners calls and things that we continue to still do. In fact, I just had an owners call an hour ago, is talking about those things and sharing it. And so it's like, don't keep the good stuff to yourself. Let's make sure that everybody's benefiting from that. And so I've never seen our system, be more collaborative. And so coming out of it, we're really just happy that we've got that culture going, and hope we can keep it going into the future.
That's wonderful. Great ideas sometimes come from the field, which is amazing. Carolyn, share your wisdom with us. I had to do it. I'm sure you get that a lot.
And that's okay. But yeah, I think mindset is something that we have to always start with. And it first had to start with me, and just being able to make sure that my mindset was staying clear and focused on where we could go, so that I could better hear from the franchisees of what they're feeling, right? Because I'm not every day right where they are. So actually being assured that our communication, yes, we're smaller, and we try really hard to work on our communication so that they, as a franchisee, could bring us a concern. Or maybe even if they did not, we're able to identify, hey, this may be how they're feeling, right? And we can actually make sure that we can bring them together as a group so that they can collaborate. Because as Andrew was stating, if they're able to hear something successful that has happened with another franchisee, even if you're having the worst period of time ever, it still gives you this hope, right? And so I think being able to bring them together, we'll send out messages where we're celebrating a victory that someone's had in a certain location, just keeping everybody aware that there's growth, there's opportunity there as well. We continue to do our quarterly meetings, but I think the innovation piece, because sometimes, as Nancy was saying, you know, home care, we really didn't lose a whole lot of need. So it just went, and when you talk about being tired, yeah, and fighting and the call out and all of these things. So at the end of the year, we did have our annual convention and they were able to rest, but the need didn't stop. And so I think that it's important to be able to show them new ways that we can add new streams of revenue. And that's something with the technology that even in home care, we're encouraging to keep our mindsets thinking outside of the box. COVID has taught all of us that we're no longer going to go back to how we were doing things. Things will be totally different. We don't know what that end result will be. So I believe if we keep our mindset open to embrace the new way of doing things, it will be very profitable for everyone. So that's what we're doing in just sharing with them, allowing them to bring to the table any new ways that we can better deliver quality care to their clients and for those caregivers as well. So those are some of the things that Wisdom is currently doing.
Excellent, excellent. And I think it's also a moment to congratulate each of you and all of those franchisors who are out there who, you know, a year into this, the franchisees realize, and those who might be listening to this who are interested in franchising is fantastic because you're in business for yourself and not by yourself. So at Huntington Learning Center, I echo everything you all said. Our franchisees are very positive for the future. We have quarterly Hello from Huntington's, which we started a few years ago. Our most recent one was last week, and we're sharing results from hybrid learning, so that's in-center and online, and the results are extremely positive. One of the reasons why we're really like the best at what we do is because we focus on the data and we focus on each and every student. So the franchisees are responding well because they're seeing that we're looking at it in a very conscientious way, and we're looking at it in a way that will really positively impact our entire system. And as I shared earlier, we're also setting up different forums to discuss key issues such as online, because a year plus ago, we were solely brick and mortar. And then to keep engagement, I agree with Nancy, you know, we can get tired. We're having a Spring for Success for the whole month of April, where we're having weekly trainings, and then the finale is a 3-day each an hour convention, virtual convention. We're having a keynote speaker come in, and it's gonna be fun and all about Huntington and really celebrating those successes. And I think that was the key March 2020 and the key March 2021, it's communication. And that's also what I heard each of you say. It's really communicating and making sure that we're collaborating appropriately with our systems and our franchisees. We're all in this together, and we're all making sure that we're fulfilling the mission of each of our concepts, which will enable us to help our customers in the personal service, family, and entertainment sector. So the next question, and we'll begin with Andrew, then we'll go to Carolyn, and then we'll do Nancy. What do you foresee derailing any of the expectations you have for 2021? And what are you doing to mitigate these thoughts? So Andrew, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I think the one that everybody would say here is any sort of resurgence with what's going on in the world from a COVID perspective. And so being here in Michigan, we are like all over the news in terms of this madness, what's happening here. So it definitely gets into consumers' minds, and people will stop, showing up and stop going out if it continues that path. So that's definitely something that could derail, the success that we're seeing right now. I will say, I do think that there is a percentage of people out there that just won't go back to the way life was. I think some people are just not going to go out and participate in ways that they did in the past. So I don't know what that percentage is for goldfish, but I certainly, think there's families with young kids that are going to be extra vigilant and cautious, and they won't come back. So I think those are some things that concern us. So we need to continue to go out and market the safety aspects of goldfish and how we behave as an organization. And we have that all over our website now in terms of disinfection, the masks that we're wearing. We wear actually shields in the pool. And so all those things I don't think are going away anytime soon. And I think in a lot of cases, I think some of these things are going to stay forever. I hope not in our business that we have to wear masks forever. That would not be a great thing in our opinion. But I think for the near distant future, our governor just announced that the stay at home or work from home, mandates go on for another 6 months. So those kinds of things keep evolving and keep happening, and things keep getting pushed down the road. That gets into the mind of the consumer, and it delays, some of these things as far as getting back to work and getting back to business as it once was. So I think barring any sort of major, outbreak again or some change as far as what's going on in the world, I think we're in a really good spot. And I'm hopeful that in 2022, as we get into New Year, it's crazy to look that far ahead, but I feel like I've never had to look further ahead before in my life in terms of planning. And so we're trying to do all the right things. I think Nancy even commented a while ago. We're not getting the one thing that we're not going to do like we've done in the past is get slightly too fat as a franchisor side of things, because I think we just felt great about the way that things were going. And we're going to be much more cautious in the way that we proceed forward. And I think our franchisees are doing the same thing, kind of to the discussion of, just being open for less hours. Like we're just going to be cautious as we operate the business. And I think that's going to be the new way that we operate into the future. So that's what I got.
Excellent. Thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, so I feel that knowledge is really power, right? And so we encourage each of our franchisees to get involved with anything dealing with policies, because one of the things is the employees, right? In different states that we're in, different federal, state, local governmental issues can impact your business. And one thing that we work hard to do is help our business owners work on their business and not in their business. And therefore, they need to be aware of what's happening. So we encourage them to join the IFA, and to also be active in their local area. Because the worst thing is to look up and realize something what just happened, and you're like, wow, where did this come from? So really, and it's us being a business owner, we do have a voice. So let your voice be heard. So that's something that we are constantly encouraging them. We're bringing information to them that they need to be ahead of. So even if we think if it's minimum wage and where this might be at this point, don't wait until. Let's start. If you're not already, let's start working on things so you can be ahead of, right? So again, I think those are the areas that we really want to help our franchisees be empowered. First, get knowledge so that they can always be aware. And like Andrew said, there are some things that is not going to change, but just for our industry, we know that the need for seniors hasn't even come to the surface yet, right? So the baby boomers, they haven't even come to the point where they need our service. We're taking care of their parents. But what is going to be different about them is what type of care do they want to have at home? And so that's how we are helping our franchisees, is let's look at what is that going to look like.
Nancy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the things that Andrew mentioned, the external factors for sure are things that we're, keeping an eye on, and they can certainly have an impact. But I think, more importantly, we're looking at internally at us, and, sort of if we don't keep the lessons that we learned through COVID, if we don't keep working together as a team, if we don't continue with the high level of communication and involvement with our franchisees, which again, we always did that, but it's just a different lens that we have now on both sides that I think is amazing. There was, you know, with brands that have been around for a while, there's baggage that always comes with it. And what I loved about going through crisis together was all of that baggage of things that we were working on before because the franchisees felt like they were the most important things that we had to work on. They really weren't important. It was just historical stuff that just, it grated on them, and that went away. And so, you know, what can derail us is if we get back to that and go, hey, yeah, we want to pick up where we left off and talk about that again. Or now we have, we want to get back to the way things were pre-COVID. And I think Carolyn said that too, like, we're not going back to that. Like, our future looks very different, and we need to recognize that and keep moving forward. So I think those are a couple of things that, you know, can derail us. I also really loved the focus that we had. I've always been a huge fan of knowing that, you know, 20% of the effort drives 80% of the results. And so, you know, how can we really push on those small levers to open bigger doors? And it's hard to do that because there's so much that we have to do. But we had to work that way during COVID. And if we can bring that forward and keep those same principles moving forward, I get so excited about it because I think about all the amazing things we can do. And so I think if we don't really keep that at a high level of focus and we allow ourselves to sort of slip back into the routine of what we were doing before, I think that will have probably the biggest negative impact on us that maybe anything else could have. So
I agree with everything that everyone said. I think derailment could also be an opportunity, right? So I always say to my team that the impossible is possible. So by derailment, if it's an external, okay, what can we control? What is in the best interest of our entire system? One thing that I loved about COVID is we were just super speed ahead, and we had to make decisions, sometimes a bit too fast, and we had to backtrack and do what was best for the entire system. Of course, that's what we always do. I think that the key, though, to ensure that you're mitigating it, and this is what everyone said from our perspective, is communication, 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 and collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. And that's why we really lean on all the different groups and members of the entire franchise community, because with any potential derailment, we can solve the problem by working together and making sure that the right people, the processes, procedures are all in place. So I see that 2021 is really a foundation year based off of all of the craziness of 2020. And we heard the statistics in the beginning with Paul. There are so many great things happening within our sector and franchising in general. In our sector, of course, just to give another plug, is the personal service, family, and entertainment sector. So this all makes a lot of sense, and we will overcome whatever comes our way. Last question, and we're doing great for time. How do you view the economic overall recovery of the franchising industry coming out of the pandemic? So we'll start with you, Andrew.
Yeah, so I think we're seeing obviously that it's very promising for us. I think that there will be that certain percentage of folks that won't come back, but I think it's an opportunity for us to market differently to people that have kids that don't know about our programs. And so I think also we're already seeing this in our industry, that there is consolidation, and some competitors are buying other competitors. Some schools are consolidating, so on and so forth. And I think that, in terms of what does it look like as we go forward in the, franchise space, we're starting to see a lot more, family office type businesses getting into our industry specifically. And so I think that, it's no secret that entertainment and this, family aspect of business that we're all in is something that isn't going away. And so we see it just continuing to evolve, continuing to grow. And, we're very optimistic. We have a lot of locations that are set to open on a lot of development schedules. And, we're starting to see, I don't know that we'll ever get back to 2019 numbers. I don't know, if that was the peak for some of our locations. I don't know if we'll ever get back there, but I'm optimistic that we'll get very, very close. And, we're seeing a lot of new people come into our industry as well, from other franchise brands, and they're getting involved with Goldfish, and we're really excited about it.
Excellent. Well, it's the growth mindset, Andrew. You will surpass 2019. You
That's
will. Nancy, you're up next, and then we'll go to Carolyn, and then I believe we're going to have Q&A.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I think I mirror, what Andrew mentioned. I think franchising is such an amazing opportunity, and it is what I love so much about it is people coming together, sharing, and sort of making stuff happen. And we certainly saw opportunities in our own brand, as Andrew mentioned, where we had existing franchisees who expanded their portfolio and purchased additional locations, and then we also have seen new people come in who really recognize what we did as a franchisor, and were excited about the things that we implemented. They were excited about the support. They were excited about all of the success that they were seeing behind the brand, and are coming forward and really wanting to get involved again. So same things. I think the future is bright. We're already seeing some amazing things happen with other brands. That gives me hope and encouragement. So yeah, agree 100%.
Awesome. Okay, Carolyn?
Yes, I would have to agree with Andrew and Nancy as well, that the franchising space is just going to continue to grow. The COVID has caused a lot of people to rethink who maybe hadn't even stepped into a business yet. They're looking at how to create. And franchising is a great place for them. They're investigating that. And I believe that in the home care industry, we're seeing even more inquiries of people coming in because they're wanting to have more control as much as they possibly can. But then too, it's also taught them why wait? Because a lot of people were hesitant, right? And I think this have kind of pushed them forward as well. So I would agree with Andrew and Nancy, but I just wanted to add that piece to franchising as well.
I agree. Within education, now education's in the news more and more. And so we at Huntington, we are that traditional brick and mortar. And now all of a sudden we're an ed tech company. And guess what? We get results. So the future is super, super bright. And I agree with Andrew. More and more people are interested in franchising because it's a different asset class to go into the portfolio. So maybe we won't have our franchise initials in Bitcoin, maybe not tomorrow, but we're always growing, and franchising is a fabulous, fabulous industry. And at Huntington, we have 2 new franchise agreements that need to be signed. So today's a good day. Paul, your turn.
Guys, that was fabulous. I cannot thank you all enough for your leadership. Excellent thoughts. Ann, Nancy, Carolyn, Andrew, thank you very, very much. I mean, you touched upon a lot of the important things: communicate, collaborate, keep moving forward, growth mindset, being in business for yourself but not by yourself, among other things. So just thank you very much. And on a personal note, I cannot, something you all just said, but I have more friends reaching out to me now, asking me, and they're already doing their due diligence, but asking me about various franchise companies that they're looking into. And it's just, that's never really dead. It's been the case, but it's happening a lot more these days. But, full disclosure, none of the brands that are currently on the webinar today, but if they do, I'll let you know. So on that note, let's try to get into at least possibly 2 of these questions. First question here from Aaron, and you guys may have touched on this, but are you adding new support channels to handle customer complaints that may arise from digital problems?
That's a good point.
And I'll just open that up. Jump in first.
Yeah, I'll touch on that real briefly. We jumped into, as I mentioned, our Twisted Home Kits, and so we started off by launching our own Shopify site first because we just had to get it out there, and then we built off of our infrastructure for our franchisees. So we do that and partnered with our suppliers so we could ship nationally for people who couldn't come and pick up. And so with that comes, this whole new set of customer service that we're like, oh my gosh, this is not what we do, and nor is it what we want to do. But we just sort of, again, reallocated resources. And that's kind of what I was, sort of mentioning before, which is like in the moment, it's fine and it works. But my director of training, I don't want her to also now be handling, customer service issues because somebody can't find the link to their Twisted Home video, right? And so, because that'll burn her out really quickly. So what we are looking at in the future, and when we also, I didn't mention this earlier, but we own a distribution company too that we purchased in November along with Color Me Mine. And so I'm looking at ways that we can, sort of shift that new area that we will continue to keep, but shift it over to where we have a customer service group that can actually handle that the right way. And so we're looking to put some additional resources there and get it in the right department.
Excellent. Andrew, do you have any thoughts?
As far as customer service, handling of complaints, things like that, we were, prior to the pandemic, we already, we have a system that scours for any sort of reviews and things that we need to respond to. There are times where we can easily, if it's a positive review, we can respond on behalf of the franchise location. If it's negative, we always send that back to the franchisee and ask them to respond to it. We respond to everything. So as far as staffing up, we haven't staffed up because we already had a team in place to handle that. And we do look at every single review. So we use Punch in terms of reviews as well. And that team has been very helpful in changing things as well. We did do something through the pandemic actually is a comfort score. So we actually surveyed members as they came through, not just to find out the quality of lessons and things of that nature, but how are we doing from a COVID perspective? Are you comfortable and safe at our schools? And then they could reply back, and then we could make changes from there to be nimble in terms of how they feel when they walk through the doors.
Excellent, thank you. Carolyn, how about you?
Yeah, so the same with Andrew. We have a system in place if people have any concerns or complaints. They can reach out. We have someone designated that responds to all the franchisees' reviews so that they get some type of response, whether it's good or bad. So we already have those processes in place. I just see that it probably will have the need of adding more staff eventually, but for right now, we're managing it with what we have.
Excellent, thank you. And Anne?
Similar, we work with Listen 360, and then we also work with the FBR. So we're always surveying. I think it's so important. Our Net Promoter Score toggles between the high 70s, mid 80s. So we really try to get back to that family and understand what was the situation. And of course, our operations team is always busy making sure that there's quality control. So in terms of how it is, we pride ourselves on that customer service, and our NPS score says it.
Excellent. Next question, and this might be the last one, but it depends. And it's from Brian. Terrific discussion, everyone. Thank you. We'd love to hear how you are approaching your item 19 disclosures in the 2021 FDD. Good question. Do you all have an item 19?
Yeah, ours is almost perfect. It's with our councils now, so it's ready to go. Ours is super clean, and it's chart, and we show what we did and what we're doing, and we also shared in terms of our response to COVID. So it's extremely clear, and we're saying it as it is, which is what we need to do. You have to do that. So ours is just about to go to press. If anyone from Corals and Brady, another shout out, don't worry, you'll be getting an email from me shortly.
Nancy, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, pretty similar to Ann. We have one where, definitely took a little extra work kind of figuring out how to, communicate all of the things that were going on. But, it is what it is, and it's in there, and hopefully it tells the right story for sure.
Awesome. Andrew and Carolyn, do you have any additional comments to make regarding item 19 and how you're going to address it in the 2021?
Yeah, so for this year, we had the suggestion to remove our item 19. And so we've had our item 19 from the beginning of time. From before we even had our first franchise, we had our one and only corporate location in there. But this year was, so challenging for us in terms of every location closing down, that it would be such a rift in terms of, where we were and, where we're going and what we went through. So we had a suggestion to pull it for this year, and then we're going to reassess for next year.
Awesome.
Yeah, we just pretty much left things as they were prior to this year. We didn't make any changes to that item 19.
Excellent. And actually, this last question is for you, Andrew. I'm going to try to squeeze it in here quick. Can you paint a mental picture of your challenges as it relates to swimming and social distancing in regards to COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, this was really challenging for us, as you can imagine. So, we run classes 4 students to 1 teacher.
Yeah.
And so when it came out with, 6-foot distancing, things had to change overnight. So all of our locations were building, plexiglass dividers. We had to source, materials from overseas, which was challenging in terms of shields, things like that. And there was a lot of fraud. Even some of our vendors that we worked with came across issues. So it was really, really hard. It's hard to really describe it. Training had to completely change. We couldn't be as hands-on with new employees. Obviously all the parents that showed up were okay with, the way the lessons were, but we had to over communicate on our practices within our 4 walls. And then sometimes we were restricted just by the amount of space and square footage that we had in our facilities, because we literally maybe could get kids in the pool, but we couldn't get parents at a 6-foot distance in our lobbies to watch the lessons as they went on. So it was really hard. We still are dealing with some of those challenges with some of the CDC recommendations and guidelines with the 3-foot distancing and masking. That has benefited us as we've continued to go forward. But it's been, even hard to, reemerge and get more kids in lessons, because parents then, sound the alarm of like, hey, it's getting a little busy in here. You might want to slow things down a little bit.
Excellent. Listen, guys, on that note, I cannot thank you all enough for your thought leadership. Awesome webinar today. Thank you, everybody who participated. Just a reminder, we did record today's webinar. It will be made available to IFA members later this evening on community.franchise.org. You could also download the PowerPoint deck off of this platform as well. We have 2 more webinars coming up in the Sector Spotlight series later this week, quick service restaurant, and then next week, table and full service restaurant sector. So if anybody's interested, hopefully you could join us for that. So again, Ann, Carolyn, Nancy, Andrew, awesome comments today from all of you. Can't thank you all enough. So enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. See you.